Nathan Buckley is a part of the Fox Footy team, in fact, a big part of the Fox Footy team, and also his role with SEN. He's been kind enough to join us. Bucks, appreciate your time. Adam Simpson used to tag you, I'm led to believe. Can you recall those days?
It was a run with role.
Yeah, run with. He got 30 touches himself, guys. So I don't think.
I was the only one not to sledge him. All my teammates would, and David King was one of the better ones. I just stood there and put my arm across him. Hope for the best.
That was instruction, wasn't it, Simo?
Yeah, you say nothing, Simo.
Hey, tell a story about me sitting back eating an apple on a couch somewhere.
Yeah, that lasted a while, mate. Sorry about that.
Hey, boys, I just want to ask you just quickly before we get our teeth into just a few of the footy chats going around. You had your big Fox Footy shoot recently. Now, I had a look. I don't know whether they were individual and they just placed the people in little chess pieces and they photoshopped. I'm looking at you, Simpson. Yes. You were as far back as I've ever seen. You was like, I had to get a magnifying glass to find you.
I must admit, it was my first day at Fox, and I was thinking, why am I doing this? Because those days, and Bucks loves them. I can tell you he was loving it. But the photo shoot days, and they got makeup on, and it was 12 till 7 at night, and I was required for 6 minutes.
You're an impatient
But I did
soul.
enjoy the crew, very good crew. Like it's connected with a lot of people that past and present that I've played with and coached with and that sort of stuff. So it looked like a really good crew to work with.
Yeah, it does. Bucks, you get excited about it. I mean, well, I'm a rusted on Fox Footy man. I don't go to the other. I don't go to free to wear. I just go to Fox. But you're looking forward to the season. It's an exciting time for both networks, for Seven and Fox as well. But you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am. Simo's still counting the minutes. That's what happens when you just come out of coach land, because every minute does count. But yeah, for the broadcast world, I've been now 4 years out, and was able to enjoy my off season. You get better at off seasons too, Simo. So see how that goes for you. But yeah, really looking forward to the season ahead. It's there's a lot of competition around, and there's a lot of teams that at their best can do a lot of damage. So it's going to be exciting to see how it pans out.
We are dissecting. We've done 12 teams so far. So we've done our ladder predictions, and we've done them only up to 6 weeks. So Simo's a believer that after 6 weeks, then things change, styles might change, player availability changes. Were you that as a coach, or even if you're not a coach, as you mentioned, 4 years out in the media? Do you think we can't get too far ahead of ourselves, and maybe 6 weeks is a bit of enough sample size?
Well, who would have had their money on Brisbane 6 weeks in last year? So it's and it seems to be the seasons are longer. By definition and by fact, the seasons are longer. So there's a bigger gap between where we start and where we finish. And I think we're seeing more fluctuations in form and in top end ability across and in a season than we've ever seen. So the first 3 or 4 rounds are fairly unique. The players are at their fittest, the game's at its fastest, and sometimes that can be a little bit deceiving about what it might look like, either in the winter months or later in the year when the game turns into more of a grind. So it is very different football. So I don't think you can assess about the first 3, 4, 5 rounds. I don't necessarily believe that you're going to see the grand finalists sort of necessarily pop up in the early stages of the year.
Bucks, we're talking earlier about injuries, and in particular this time of year. Well, yeah, I don't think it was 18. I think it might have been 19, where you just had a spate of injuries that really decimated your list. And correct me if I'm wrong, you still managed to play finals, still had a really good season. And your messaging was one of injuries don't matter, and you're quite positive about the season. What year was that? Was it 19?
Well,
or was it 18?
You would know, mate. You feel like it happens all the time. You had an average run in 18 as we did, and my philosophy was around, I suppose having your players on the edge and preparing them really well for season. I think that probably hurt a little bit at times in terms of losing players, and you do put a lot of faith in your conditioning coach and your conditioning program. But managing players, managing a list, and managing injuries is a real key part of getting success. We saw Brisbane with 3 ACLs early last year, but still being able to find a way.
And Hawthorn started last year 0-5 and finished with a bang. What's your expectation, without sort of not going by club, Nathan, but just talk about what your expectation are of Hawthorn and how they would be messaging to their playing group in regards to expectation, one, and also the way that they conduct themselves on the ground with, for the want of a better word, a touch of arrogance.
Yeah, well, the expectation is a big word for Hawthorn, and that'll be the biggest difference between season 24 and 25. Every sort of list, every group of players gets a little bit of grace, and when you've come and you've beat expectations, I think that's a great place to be. It's a very different space to work in. It's a very different space to perform in when you're actually exceeding the expectations both internally and externally. But that won't be Hawthorn's case coming into next year. The demands and the expectations, both internally and externally, will be a lot greater, and they won't be playing in the same and performing in the same space that they were last year. So it's a challenge. It's a much difficult challenge, and momentum becomes really important because they're going to have to handle the downturns, and the downturns are probably going to have them disappointed in themselves in a way that they haven't been in the last couple of years. So that's when you find out when you've the mettle of your players, the mettle of your team, and whether they're a chance of being a contender.
Nathan Buckley with us. Last couple before you let you go, Bucks. Just in regards to St Kilda not being able to land, and it's been reported a verbal offer was pretty big towards Finn Callaghan. We know this morning that he signed a 4-year deal, contract extension with the Giants. What does it take to land a big fish at a football club like St Kilda? We saw for years North Melbourne couldn't land one. Yeah. How tough is it? Do you just need one to break the cycle?
I think. It's become quite public, hasn't it? You know, the plays that they've made at key players in opposition. Obviously, you're not just looking for on-field talent there. They're looking for a player that can play out those years and be the type of character and leader that you can help build a club around, build a culture and environment around. Tell you the first thing I thought of, mate, I went straight to the TPP numbers and started working out sort of what percentage of the TPP that was. 1.7 will be 10% of this year's TPP, which went up by $2 million for the players. And then I don't know, Simo, if you did, but I went straight to the soft cap as well. I had a look at that and said, well, that's over 1.7 is over 20% of an entire AFL football club's soft cap. So. And nearly as much as you would pay an entire coaching group. So the numbers are starting to get pretty interesting.
Before we let you go, we opened the show this morning and Simo had a parenting issue, and this is right in your wheelhouse, Bucks. When do you cut off the drip? When do you cut off the financial tap of support for children? Now, you've got a young fellow who's going through motorsport, and I'm loving watching that journey as well through socials. Just tell us a bit about, give Simo some advice because he's really struggling with it at the moment.
Got a couple of leeches at home, Bucks.
Yeah, well, I think we're in the same boat. I think every mum and dad out there are in the same boat. My boys aren't at home with me all the time. They're sort of, they're either at their mum's or at mine. And the communication when they're not here is not always consistent. But what is consistent is when it comes. There's generally an ask on the other side of it. So
that's a question mark.
The drip's still well and truly going.
Very good. Hey, mate, looking forward to your stuff on Fox and your role also with SEN, mate. And we appreciate you taking our call here this morning. Going to be a great season, and it's getting closer.
Cheers. Have a good year, boys.
Yeah, there he is, Nathan Buckley joining us.